New Explorer Corps, First Arm, Draconis Combine, New Samarkand, May 5th, 3152, 7:21 p.m. Kip Holt sat at the round table wedged into the back corner of the dive bar called Draco's Wave and stared at the digital document on the tablet in front of him. He had read over it several times already, and now he was just staring at the page. His grizzled look was even more pronounced due to his lack of shower and shave for the past 2 weeks. "Well, do we have a deal or not?" the woman who was sitting across from him at the table said in a tone that suggested she was getting quite sick of waiting. Taking in one more deep breath, Kip placed his thumb on the screen and typed in his digital marker, which added his signature to the document. "Yeah, they're at the spaceport. Dropship's in a mule called Akrai. It's painted white and metallic blue. Hard to miss." Taking the tablet from his hands, the woman stood and slipped it into her long navy blue jacket before saying, "It's been a pleasure doing business with you." "Yeah, great," Kip said as he downed the rest of his drink. New Samarkand, Dropship Akrai, May 6th, 3152, 8:52 p.m. "Rin, you better get down here." Cal's voice cut through the sound of her playing music. She took off her headphones and set them on her bunk before reluctantly crawling out and assembling a reasonable set of clothing. "Emergency or annoyance?" she asked. Cal's response came with a bit of background yelling. He replied, "Undetermined. We may be getting robbed here." "Is Vasil around?" Rin asked as she climbed down the central ladder. There was an open line for a few moments, but all Rin could hear was Cal arguing with someone. She made her way down to the lower levels of the ship and out into the bay where Olivia's Thunderbolt and Max's Axeman were now firmly secured. As an act of contrition, she had offered to completely replace the Thunderbolt's knee actuator, which was never quite right from the earlier action. At one of the open ramps, Cal was standing on the incline, blocking the vehicle trying to guide Kip's Stingray out of the dropship. A woman holding a tablet was yelling at him while he yelled back. "What is going on here?" Rin asked as she walked up to the pair. The woman with the tablet turned and faced Rin before sliding her hand through her short gray hair in frustration. She handed Rin the tablet before saying, "This Stingray is ours. Also the Corax behind it. All the documents are legitimate. You're impeding the safe and expedient transaction. And if you don't get out of the way, I'm going to call the Combine security down here to deal with you." "Hold on one second," Rin said as she scanned the document, flipping through several pages on it before getting back to the signature. Her eyes went wide and her blood pressure began to climb as she turned to Cal and said, "Kip sold the fighters." "Why the hell would he do that?" Cal asked, tapping his comlink and saying, "Kip, are you in range? Where the hell are you?" as he walked away, leaving Rin and the increasingly annoyed buyer. "There must be some mistake. He didn't say anything about leaving the ship or selling his fighters. That doesn't seem like something he would do," Rin said, shaking her head as she handed the tablet back to the woman. "Listen," the woman said as she placed the tablet back in her inner jacket pocket. "I don't know what sort of little nonsense operation you have going on here, and I don't care. Those fighters are mine, and we're taking them before you try to steal them." Left with no reasonable options, Rin stepped aside. Her brow was furrowed, and she sighed loudly as the Stingray was rolled down the ramp with the transport vehicle. She vowed to chew Kip a new one the next time she saw him, if she saw him again, which Rin realized was unlikely. Cal jogged back to Rin and said, "I got through to Vasil and Tenica. They're on their way back, but they haven't seen Kip anywhere. I doubt we're going to find him. I bet his gear is gone. This is just going to make hiring in the Raven Alliance all the more important and costly," Rin said with a sigh. She looked up into Cal's eyes and asked, "Can you handle things here? The ships are theirs. Just make sure they don't grab anything else. I need to send a message to the wolves." "You've got it, Captain," Cal said as the transport vehicle approached to attach to the Corax. As Rin headed back to her cabin, the pieces were falling into place. She should have been a little bit more suspicious when Kip said both fighters needed on-planet maintenance. If he had let her know that he was thinking of bailing, they could have at least parted on good terms, or even put in an offer on the Corax. Finding two pilots with their own aerospace fighters was going to be damn tough, and now they were on a schedule to keep with the Combine jump ship. Logging onto the HBG network, Rin pulled up the message chain with Star Captain Randall. From all accounts, the Wolves were happy with the data the NEC had shared up to this point, though they had already reminded Rin on several occasions that interactions with other clans were to be avoided. Rin gathered her thoughts and began to type out her message. She wrote, "Star Captain Randall, Preparations for our departure continue, and I wish once again to show my appreciation for the resources you have made available to continue the journey. We have already discovered so much, and it is encouraging to consider what is still out there. I know you have cautioned us about contacting other clans, though in our current situation being down 2 aerospace pilots, it is necessary that we briefly visit the Raven Alliance in order to hire pilots and procure aerospace fighters if they are not already owners. We will of course follow previously established protocols concerning operational security and keep involvement from the Ill Clan private. Sincerely, Captain Rin Barrett, New Explorer Corps, May 6th, 3152. Rin leaned back in her bunk, looking over the words to make sure there were no contractions and that it hit the right respectful tone before hitting send. She wanted to make sure that she was being open, but also not create the impression that there was any other option than visiting the Raven Alliance. An hour later, a response arrived over the network. It read, Captain Rin, we appreciate your continued discretion as political matters are troublesome. We recommend you maintain your neutrality as much as possible and represent yourself as a purely scientific venture. We have attached additional funding to partially cover your costs, though understand this is not going to be the norm. We ask that you pay close attention to your interactions with the Raven Alliance. We would be interested in knowing their disposition, attitudes toward you, and any other information that you think we would find valuable. We are looking forward to a substantive report upon your successful return. Star Captain Randall, 54th Garrison Cluster, Upsilon Galaxy, Ill Clan Wolf. Rin felt a wave of relief after setting the tablet down. Her father used to remind her that life wasn't fair, and that of course made sense. Rin just wanted things to be unfair in her favor from time to time. That didn't seem like too big of an ask. When the others returned to the ship that night, Rin made the call. They were headed out the next day. New Samarkand System, Dropship Akrai, May 7th, 3152. With everyone on board, other than Kip, who Rin expected was searching for purpose at the bottom of a bottle in some bar, the dropship lifted off without event. She was going to call for a meeting, but Cal said they were all already in the cargo bay anyway, so Rin headed in that direction. When she walked in, she took a second to admire Max's Axeman, with a fresh coat of white with metallic blue accent armor plates. It looked good, and Rin was confident that Olivia and the others had made a good call with their new teammate. She walked in on a sparring match between Olivia and Tenica that looked like it had been going on for a while. Both were in their workout attire and drenched with sweat. Cal was leaning against some cargo containers, along with Vasil, who had his arms crossed and stood in judgment over each of Tenica's moves. Max was sitting on a crate on Vasil's other side, smiling in what Rin suspected was just a permanent facial expression. The two mech warriors seemed pretty evenly matched, strong with good reflexes, as is the norm for mech jockeys. Rin felt good being on the outside of Olivia's latest fight, rather than a participant. She sidled up next to Cal and leaned against the container just as Tenica grappled Olivia down to the ground. "Who's winning this?" Rin asked, while not taking her eyes off the action. Cal chuckled and replied, "I think we all win if they manage to tucker themselves out. Olivia gets feisty if she hasn't pummeled someone in a while." "They are pretty evenly matched, but I think Tenica will pull it out. Right now," Vasil said, just as Tenica unexpectedly pushed hard and twisted her body. It caught Olivia off guard, and she struggled to prevent Tenica from placing her forearm and weight across her opponent's neck. A few seconds later, Olivia's hand tapped the practice mat and the bout was over. The two mech warriors got up, grabbed each other in a quick hug, and walked over to the rest of the crew. "Excellent work, the both of you," Vasil said as he tussled Tenica's wet hair. She growled at him and punched him in the stomach playfully. Olivia grabbed her towel, and while patting away the sweat on her neck, chest, and arms, she asked Cal, "Why don't you tussle with the new guy?" Cal chafed and said, "Sorry, I only tussle professionally." Max hopped down from the boxes and looked up at Vasil before saying, "How about you, big guy? Are those muscles for show?" Vasil looked down at Max and said, "Let us find out." The elemental walked out onto the practice mat and took off his tank top, tossing it to the side. The green ink snaking up his body glowed with a distracting intensity. Max unzipped his dark gray jumpsuit to his waist and tied the arms around his midriff, revealing a string of connected titanium implants running up his spine. Everyone was curious, but Olivia piped up first when she asked, "Was that the health hiccup that got you out of the DCMS?" Max turned toward the group and said, "Yeah, I got into it with the Davion hammerhands, and it clocked me up just under the cockpit with a shot from those autocannons. It very nearly killed me. I ended up in traction and the Combine gave up on me. I had to spend everything I had on this gear just to get back on my feet again. Tenica looked concerned when she said, "So are you okay to spar? We don't want to break you on your second day on the job." "Better than the original," Max said with a wide smile on display. He turned back to Vasil and they began to circle each other. The elemental had 2 feet of height on the new hire, but Max seemed to have a speed advantage. Olivia hopped onto the storage container, sat with her booted feet dangling, and said, "If you break him, Vasil, you have to nurse him back to health." Cal laughed and said, "Yeah, those Jade Falcons are renowned for their bedside manner." Max struck first, moving in low and to the side, punching hard into Vasil's thigh to make his muscles spasm. Vasil was able to step aside and let the blow graze him before punching down toward Max's face. It hit, but most of the power was lost as Max turned his head away quickly and twisted his body to punch Vasil in the kidney. The elemental grunted a bit from the hit, but his response was brutal as he caught a hold of Max's arm and yanked it hard enough that it slapped the new hire down to the ground with a thud that made everyone watching wince. Even the 6 centimeters of floor padding didn't help much as the wind was knocked out of him. Vasil stepped back, letting Max crawl up to a sitting position. Vasil reached out, and Max took his hand and helped him up as it was clear that Max was done. In between recovering breaths, Max said, "I almost had you." "If you would like to keep going," Vasil offered. "Maybe after dinner," Max quickly responded. 21 days later, the Akrai connected to the Rabbit's Foot and prepared for their jump toward the Raven Alliance. Max seemed to mesh in well with the other key crew, the science team was well rested and restocked, and Rin had secured enough funding to last a while. Things were looking up for the new Explorer Corps. As Rin stood on the bridge, resting her hands on the back of the command chair, she looked over at Cal and got the thumbs up. She smiled and spoke into the comlink. "Prepare for jump in 60 seconds. End Part 2. As always, thank you for watching and or listening. I'm excited to get the NEC back out into the periphery again now that they have their new directive. Of course, there's still a lot of unknowns out there, so it'll be fun to find out what there is to see along with our new plucky band of explorers. If you want to support this creative effort, the free option is to hit that like and subscribe button and perhaps share the story with someone else who might enjoy it. If you are in a position to do so, channel memberships are inexpensive and go toward keeping this grand experiment running. Until I see you again, take care and go make the world a slightly better place today and tomorrow.